Greetings my friends and welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George and today I'm reviewing the absolutely crushing debut album from death metal project Static Abyss, and this album is entitled Labyrinth of Veins. Look at that awesome artwork there, really love it, so eye-catching. So Static Abyss, an old school death metal death doom project. It's a two-man outfit, both members of which are very familiar names and faces in the old school death metal scene. These guys have been in and around the scene for decades. Talking about these two chaps here, who you may recognise and know from being in the band Autopsy. Autopsy are old school death metal band, one of the real pioneering bands, absolute legends in the scene that they are. Released so many killer, really nasty, gory albums. Of course, we've got Greg Wilkinson here, bass, guitars and other contributions. And we have Chris Reifert, drums, vocals and lyrics. So these two guys, certainly Chris is an absolute legend. If you're not familiar with Chris, you may have heard of a little band called Death, who Chris was actually drumming for in the very, very early days, and then went on and has had a great career with Autopsy and continues to do so, but has obviously stepped aside to taking a little bit of time out to make this album. A very good album, absolutely crushing, nasty, raw, rough, old school death metal with a heavy, heavy doomy injection, but not entirely dissimilar from Autopsy. There's a lot of moments here where you do think, or I certainly thought to myself, this could easily have passed off as an Autopsy song, or even a part of a song could have easily passed off as being one of Autopsy's songs. That said, it's not entirely replicating Autopsy. There is a difference. It's very nasty stuff. It's very heavy. It's very visceral. And it's gory. Of course, Autopsy is. So this album, Labyrinth of Veins, is packing some absolutely cracking tracks there. Don't know if you can see the album track list there. But we've got some really good, really strong material here. Kicking off the album, we have a track called Feasting on Eyes, which is grisly. It's old school, definitely does have a very Autopsy vibe there, but it's punishing. It's got great killer riffs. We've got some great blasting drumming there. We've got Chris's great snarling, gargling vocals. Does a superb job throughout. Nothing Left to Rot, another really solid old school death metal number, dripping in death. Then we get a couple of tracks such as You Are What You Kill and Jawbone Ritual, which have almost a bit of a grindcore flair to it. Like, they wouldn't be entirely, I guess, out of place on one of the earlier, shall we say, Harmony Corruption or Utopia Banished Napalm Death albums. Some really great grinding moments there, a little bit of diversity. But personal favourites for me, as I am a massive death doom fan, I'm talking Autopsy and some of the really nasty passages of Soulburn, bands like that. Mandatory Cannibalism, which is an absolutely nasty number. That's definitely a death doom, very old school, very gritty track. But the title track, Labyrinth of Veins, clocking in at somewhere over 6.5 minutes, I believe. It's a real heavy, asphyx kind of crushing death doom track. It's nasty, it's got some cracking riffs, and it's got that heavy, skull-crushingly drony doom, and it's just beautifully nasty. It's so grisly. Really killer tracks. I really would recommend those two tracks in particular for any old school death doom fans. If you like your nasty, doomy riffs in that good old death metal style, think, as I say, Asphyx, think a bit of Obituary in there, might be heading in the right direction. And then through the rest of the album, again, these are all really good songs. You get more of a death metal, old school death metal flair, you know, that Autopsy style, with tracks like Contort Until Death, which is a really heavy number. We get Tectonic Graveyard, which is, again, it's quite grindy, it's quite old school death vibe. Think a band like Carcass, really nasty, gritty sound. Morgrat Fever, Death. Closing track, Clawing to the Top of the Dead. Really ominous name, but a killer track. Again, we bring back that heavy, doomy sound and give it a nasty, raw death metal style. Overall, if you're an Autopsy fan, you'll love this. Not just because the fact that you've got Chris and Greg, but also because there is a bit of a similar sound and vibe. Of course there's going to be, but it's just good old school death metal. If you're a fan of, shall we say, Obituary, Bolt Thrower, 6 Feet Under, yeah, you're gonna enjoy this. You can't go too far wrong. And to be honest, this is probably one of the best old school death metal albums that I've come across in recent times. Definitely. Probably the best thing since the last Memoriam album, or perhaps more recently, the latest Jungle Rot album, which is an absolute killer album. But these guys, yes, they're not exactly unheard of in this scene. Yes, it's a bit of a spin-off project, but it's a freaking great album. Nasty, if you like nasty riffs, if you like nasty vocals, if you like just all things putrid and death, check out Static Abyss, Labyrinth of Veins, out on Peaceville Records. Really nice sounding, raw, rough, but well produced at the same time. Check it out and do let me know what you think. I'm interested to hear from all those old school death metal heads. And if you're not familiar, if you're not really all that keen on old school death metal or just death metal in general, give it a try. I think you'll be quite pleasantly surprised. And of course, let me know what you think. But thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. As always, very much appreciated. Take care, my friends. Stay heavy.